Okay. Great. So let's bring this regular board meeting to order. It's April 26th, 7:05 p.m. Call to order, please. Pledge of allegiance, please. Actually, I'm sorry. Wait, I forgot to do the share screen. Okay, now it's being difficult. Okay, now you see the flag?
There we go.
There
Okay.
we go.
Yes, we do.
All right, so let's pledge of allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge
I pledge allegiance to
Pledge
the
allegiance
flag
to
of the United States of America,
America,
to the republic
which stands
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Here.
Ms. McGuire,
Here.
Mr. Spencer,
Here,
Mr. Palmer,
Here.
Mr. Sutton here, Mr. Wushtabar,
Present.
Ms. Richards,
Here. Sorry, I just gotta get the agenda on. Okay, can everybody see the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so with that, do we have any agenda additions?
Yeah, I'm working off of the amended agenda. Okay, and we
Should be what's
received,
up here. Yep.
yeah. So I have been asked to add, I'll call it number 10 under my report, which would be the IP right contract. And then another 2 play under resolution and ordinances, which would be number 5. It'd be resolution 2021-14. And we'll call it to authorize issuance of capital improvement bonds, DWRF water project, general obligation limited tax freeze 2021A.
Okay,
I don't have an addition, but I'd like to throw this out as I sent an email out earlier today. I believe the audit deserves a lot of time, as I did get a chance to go through it half the day yesterday and some today. So I'd like to postpone the presentation of the 2020 audit, schedule a special meeting where that is the sole topic of the meeting.
was that a motion?
No.
okay.
I don't think I can make a motion. This is
No.
Nope.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, I guess Cindy's on the call and I actually do have her unmuted. We asked her to be here tonight. So I'm sure she, probably altered plans, so on. Cindy, are you okay with that?
As long as I'm available, I definitely want the board to feel comfortable that they've had adequate time to look at everything, and I wouldn't want anyone to feel rushed. We would just want to make sure that I'm available for when you would schedule it for. Do you have those dates already, or is that something you'd touch base with me later?
The only thing I would say is last year, the audit was done a lot later. And so it was presented a lot later. And I know a lot of the board members were concerned about that because we were halfway through the year and just getting the audit and being able to look at, we were already halfway through the year and how do we make corrections if we've already used it up. So I know that the auditors got us in to do their work and Cindy worked really hard to press us to get all the information she needed for us after the audit so that we could do this tonight.
I understand that, and I appreciate Cindy's time. I guess I would be looking into next week to see if we could schedule a special meeting.
Okay,
That's still timely in my mind. I mean, it's not pushing it out till June.
right.
We could take our
right.
regularly scheduled time on Monday and just do it next Monday.
There's a planning commission meeting Monday.
Yeah.
So,
Monday
Cindy,
and
I mean, I
Wednesday-
know we're putting you on the spot, Cindy, but I mean, is your availability next week in the evenings okay?
Monday and Wednesday would be my only availability next week.
Okay. So
So
maybe
that means the
Wednesday, what
5th.
would Wednesday be?
Yeah,
The 5th?
5th. Yep.
Cinco de
tomorrow.
Mayo. We could drink some margaritas and listen to the presentation, right?
That
I'll
would make
book
it more
that.
fun.
Sorry. I'm trying to keep a sense of humor this evening.
So are we thinking 7 p.m. like tonight?
I
Does that
would,
work for you, Steve, and others?
Do we do it earlier? So I know I have a meeting
I
at
think we have
7
to
on
make-
Wednesday next week.
I think we'll have to be cognizant of the public being able to join, so people get off work around 5:30.
like 6 o'clock
I
even?
could do 6. Yeah, do 6.
Sounds good to me.
Does that work for Cindy?
I can make it work.
Okay.
Right.
So
Is that via Zoom or is that in person?
that's going to
Mhm.
be a Zoom as well, as far as I'm aware.
That's right.
So Monday or Wednesday?
Wednesday, because there's a, well, I mean, Monday, there's a planning commission meeting that starts at 5. So we have a couple, I mean, Bill Palmer's on the planning commission, so
That
we did
meeting
it.
starts, that meeting starts at 7.
At 7, I meant.
Yeah.
I meant we'd have to start earlier, sorry.
Wednesday at 6 is fine with me.
Okay.
Agreed. For me as well.
Fine with me.
Okay, so we need a motion to amend that on the agenda then, the presentation. So we're going to remove, or I mean, we'll remove the 2020 audit report. I guess.
I make a motion that I'll make a motion that we postpone the presentation of the 2020 audit report to next Wednesday,
May 5th.
the May.
May 5th.
The 5th of May at 6 p.m. And also we amend the agenda as Mitch stated for the items. He'd have to, Chris, I didn't write those down.
Okay. Is there support?
Support. Yeah, support.
All right. So there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Cummings to amend the agenda as just discussed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. And we had a couple, I'm just going to stop here for a second. We've had a couple people zoom in since we did that agenda change. So I just want to make sure that people that zoomed in, depending on what you're zooming in for, that the presentation of the audit has been postponed until May 5th at 6 p.m. So again, we have 45 people on the Zoom call. So I just want to make sure that people understand that we did postpone that till May 5th. And Cindy, thank you again for coming in this evening. Sorry to change your plans, but we'll see you next week.
All right, have a good evening, guys.
Okay, thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to the agenda, we have a public hearing on the agenda. It's the second public hearing for the Special Assessment District on Van Etten Lake to discuss whether the proposed assessment is fair and feasible. We need a motion to open up that public hearing, please.
I so move.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire. Open up the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
yes,
Ms. McGuire,
yes,
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. We are in the public hearing section. I have, as indicated in my email, before I've asked Nancy to give us a brief overview of the formula used, for the benefit unit formula used for the process. Before she gets going, just, wanted to make everybody aware that, we did, according to the law, did the 2 notices in the paper. We did email all the property owners. I'm sorry, not email, but mail all the property owners. I think I received maybe 3 returned address, returned on, undeliverable. But everybody was noticed as indicated. I think I received a couple phone calls, and I do have a letter to read in if that person is not zoomed into the meeting. But that being said, Nancy, if you could go over the formula that is used for this process, that would be appreciated.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so when the Special Assessment District was first established in 1999, there was an extensive amount of research in determining which properties to include in the district. There were also several discussions centered around the appropriation of the benefit units. These meetings consisted of the Township Superintendent, Mr. Stalker, the legal counsel, members of the Van Etten Lake Association. I do recall Ken Ratliff attending all of those meetings, and myself. The proposed method that we came up with and was presented is as follows. A 1/4 benefit unit for properties with a deeded access, a half benefit unit to back lots. The lakefront properties, if the lot had less than 80 foot of frontage, it was awarded 1 benefit unit. 80 feet to 159 feet has 1.5 benefit units, and above 159 feet is 2 benefit units. To note, the parcels that have 1 benefit unit, 69% of the lakefront properties fall within that category. Or 69% of the properties in this district are in that category. 25% of the properties have 1.5 benefit units, and 6% of the lakefront properties have 2 benefit units. The frontage of the 1 benefit unit was based on the adjusted mean average of all of the lakefront properties. That's how the 80 foot was picked. And we utilized the same frontages as what is utilized in the assessing office for establishing the values for taxation purposes. Are there any questions on that?
How often is that assessment reviewed? Like, are there new properties that that could be purchased that could add to that, or anything like that?
Yes, every time the district is comes up for renewal, we produce a new assessment roll and recalculate the which parcels, how many parcels, for example, have 1 benefit unit, how many parcels have 1.5, and that's what we utilize to come up with the total cost per benefit unit. We'll take the total number of benefit units within the district and divide that by your not to exceed price, which this year is $70,000. Incrementally in between the reestablishments, whenever every year, as we have splits and combines in the assessor's office, we'll notify the treasurer of the changes that need to be made on the special assessment district. One of the other things that had come up in the past, and we utilize it for all of our special assessment districts, is as opposed to people suddenly going, oh, we have a special assessment, I'm going to combine my properties. We look at the properties and establish that special assessment district and the parcels based on how they appear on the current assessment roll.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Nancy? And again, just to remind the board, we did change this process 5 years ago when the district was renewed in 2016. Instead of the instead of it being a flat rate, it was a as needed, I guess. So the township upfronts the cost, and then the actual assessment is rolled to the group with a winter tax bill. So at no time can that ever exceed $70,000, and that does include the lake manager as well. So, okay. Any other questions for the board before we open it up to public comment? Okay, so again, we have 43 participants this evening. If you are here to speak in regard to the public hearing, and again, this is just the public hearing for the special assessment district, not public comment in regard to anything else that's on the agenda or anything else that has to do with the township. That's at the end of the meeting. If you are here to speak about the special assessment district, please use the raise hand feature on your computer. We have a bunch of phone calls too, so that's not helpful. I think I'm just gonna unmute everybody, which could be craziness, but I don't know what else to do to not avoid anybody. So I am actually going to allow participants to unmute themselves during this process. And so that's going to take me a few minutes later on to undo, but to put everybody else on. But again, if you are here this evening for the public comment section and wish to speak, if you have the raise hand feature on your computer, please use that. If not, you have been unmuted, I believe. Can we test that out?
Yep.
No, just, I mean, and I'm not saying, Kristen, that you're here to talk about the special assessment district, but can you speak without asking to unmute?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to test it out.
No problem.
Okay, so is there anybody that would like to speak in regard to the public hearing? Trying to find somebody that I know is a.
Ann, Ann, is this Dave Wynn? Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, I think you and I talked the other day, and I appreciate you calling me at that point. The only question that I have, the only comment I guess I want to make is that, as I understand, this is assessment is energized every 5 years. Right now, my property is currently being taxed with this through this assessment for the lake treatments, and these additional assessments, as I understand, the property will not be taxed additional money on top of this. Is that correct?
Well, basically, you are only, the 5-year special assessment district ended in 2021. So we are now renewing 2020, I'm sorry, in 2020. So 2021 you will only have a special assessment assigned to your tax parcel if we renew this district. So I don't know if I'm answering the question. It's going to vary from year to year. At no time can it exceed the amount that was indicated to you, but it will vary depending on what the use is.
I know, but my question is, I'm already being, the property is already being assessed per year from past years. And my question is, this will not be an additional cost, am I correct?
Right, you're assessed on your winter tax bill for what was spent on that previous summer. So your winter tax bill, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but the winter tax bill that went out had what the special assessment from 2020 was. So that's done on your winter tax bill. So okay. You won't see anything again until your winter tax bill in December or whenever those come out. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay. But okay, here's my question. Let me just, let's say last year it was $150. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was what was put on my winter tax bill. Mm-hmm. This year I won't be hit with that 100 plus $159. Am I correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Right. That's all I want to know.
It's assessed in each individual year. It's assessed.
Okay, but it's not, this is not in addition to.
No,
No.
the one that you just had was for 2020. The one that will be coming up will be for 2021, what was spent this year.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, can you state your name again? Just so we can have it for the record?
Dave Wynn, W-I-N-N.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Ann, can you hear me?
Yes.
I clicked the unmute button at the bottom of my screen. I could not find another icon that you mentioned. This is Carol Plunky.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, live on Vanette Lake. Just wanted to put my 2 cents in about the SAD. We've lived up here since 2002, and before we had this special assessment district, they did other things to try to keep the weed growth from overtaking our lake. And the past 2 SADs, I think, have been fair and just in keeping this weed assessment program going to make sure that we have a beautiful lake up here for people to come. So I know that this is probably just a formality, but from what I'm hearing from most of the people around the lake, we're very happy with the way this thing is set up. We kind of count on the weed committee to be our spokesperson as far as you know, the areas of the lake that need the most treatment. But I do want to underline the fact that most of the, I can speak for the people that I know that have come to the meetings are very happy with the current setup, and I'm hoping that this gets renewed again for another 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, remember everybody that you are currently unmuted. I'm just going to remind people that everybody on the call is unmuted. So background noise, so on, is going to come through. So just keep that in mind unless you mute yourself. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak for the public hearing for the special assessment district? Okay. All right, I am going to read, I did receive one letter, and that's from Paul Rakowski at 4611 Oak. Sorry, I'm going to put my sheets on so I can read it. Dear Ms. Richards, I'm writing with regard to your upcoming public hearing for the special assessment district for Van Etten Lake. I may or may not be able to attend the public hearing, so I'm sending my comment objecting in writing. I own 2 adjoining parcels on the lake, and according to your attachment, I'm being charged 3 benefit units. I understand the proposed SAD wording charges specifically by tax parcel code. I own approximately 230 feet of frontage of the lake. The YMCA and the Township of Oscoda has approximately at least 10 times the amount of frontage on the lake as I do, yet they are only assessed maximum of 2 units for the SAD. That is unreasonable. Just because the SAD arbitrarily is assessing the cost of property owners by tax code parcels, I have to pay 50% more than others who have 10 times the amount of frontage as me. A landowner should not be penalized for their property that happens to have 2 separate tax codes, when in effect, there is no difference between myself and another landowner who has as much or more property on the lake, but happens to have that frontage contained within 1 tax code. I request whoever it is who has jurisdiction in writing of the SAD language to rectify this unfair situation. I ask that this letter be put in the official record for the public hearing for the SAD. So. Okay. Anybody else?
John Betker.
Okay, John.
John Betker, 4495 Van Etten Dam Road.
Okay.
Spell the last name Boettger.
All right.
I've been there since 2005. I think with this, I don't like being taxed like anybody else, but what has been done with this SAD has been very, very good for the lake. It keeps it so that we're able to use our boats on it and be able to enjoy the water. Not only do we get to enjoy it, but so does the public. So this way here, it brings people to Oscoda as well. I see nothing but all positives on this. You know, first, I'd rather not have it, but the fact is that they've had it now for over 10 years, and it's worked very well. And in fact, the price has gone down every year, just about. And I know Lake Pro says that we have pretty much just on the maintain right now. So it's not that we have to add you go after stuff. As long as we continue to maintain it, we should be able to keep it at a reasonable price. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, do we have anybody else that would like to speak on the special assessment district? Okay, hearing no other comments, and again, everybody is unmuted, so they should have the opportunity. I would take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Okay. That was a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Westerbarth, I believe.
Yes.
To close the public hearing. Okay, roll call, please. I think you're muted. Sorry, Josh.
There we
Yeah, we
go.
all are.
There you go.
Mr. Spencer,
You're muted, Jeremy.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. We are now into the regular meeting. I am gonna, I don't really know how else to do this besides mute everybody and then unmute the board again. So I'm just gonna do that real quick, okay? Just to make sure.
I'm back.
Yeah, sorry, there might be another way, but I don't know how to do it. So this is what I'm gonna do.
It's working.
Okay.
If it ain't Baroque.
Okay, where did Bill go? There he is. Did I get everybody? Where's Mitch?
I'm,
Did I unmute you already, Mitch? Jamie, are you there? Oh, no.
I think you need to do Josh also.
Okay.
oh,
All right,
Yeah.
so we're all back, right?
Yep.
And I think I got you, Steve, on your phone call?
Yep.
line? Okay.
I think I'm here.
All right. Woo, we're all back. Okay, great. So now we are on to the consent agenda component of the board packet. We have a few things on the agenda this evening, consent agenda. We have the work session meeting minutes of April 9th. Any comments on that? We have April 12th, regular meeting minutes, April 12th. And we have special meeting minutes from April 16th. Any comments on any of those? Right, then we also have a few payment of bills. We have the prepaid run from April 22nd in the amount of $222,072.28. Anybody on that? We have the check run for April 27th in the amount of $60,799.37. Anything on that? We have the fund summary report 2021. We have the check disbursement February through March of 2021. And then last but not least, we have the Q1 financial report. Jamie has asked me to put this up on the screen because of why, Jamie?
Appropriations Act, they ask you to do a little bit of a narrative overview of some of the different funds.
Okay. Sorry, I need to find where I'm at on share screen. You see it?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
Everybody else see it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
First, let me just point out that the highlighted boxes, don't pay any attention to those. I forgot to remove it when I was working on it. So, what this report does for the board members that haven't seen this before, I think I sent it to Jeremy and Steve previously to this, so they would have a chance to look at it, but it's been a long time. So they had a little bit of an overview. So what this does is this compares the beginning fund balance in column A. It gives you the first quarter of last year to the first quarter of this year, the difference, what our anticipated revenues are according to the budget, what was appropriated in column G, the differences between the expenditures for the first quarter last year and the first quarter this year, and projected fund balance at the end of the year. So we can kind of keep an eye on it. And this is a combination of budgeting, journal entries, manual entries, and obviously revenue and expenditures through cash receipting, those type of things, and expenditures, writing checks and moving money within the contributions of funds. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hit some of the highlights of the bigger numbers. And if you have any other questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer if I can off the top of my head. So starting with the revenue side, the comparison between 2020 and 21, Fund 101, the difference is the balance is down. It's negative 471, 812.86. And this is mostly due to tax revenue, administration fees that were distributed in 2020 instead of in 2021. And that was on advice of the auditors from last year. After the audit, that was one of their recommendations, to push as much as the tax revenue into the current year, then wait till 2021. And that way, when doing some of the adjustments for taxes, that it would help with that process. So we started working on something like that. The rest is the contributions to the general fund from water, sewer, Old Orchard Park, and property O&M. Those haven't occurred yet. You'll notice in the police fund that that contribution has taken place, but these other ones have not in this quarter, but they are being worked on by the clerk and the and Mitch's office. In Fund 203, that one is down in road improvement. That was due to a special assessment in revenue in 2020, where this year we didn't have any special assessments that were going to be contributing to the balance for that. And Fund 206, that one is down from last year. Isabel and Wilbur contributed towards the purchase of our fire truck. So that's one of the reasons that it's down. And the tax revenue was slightly down due to the disbursement in December 20, as stated before, auditor's recommendation. In Fund 207, not as much money was transferred from the general fund to this year as there was last year, and that's the difference between those two. In Fund 218, that one is down because the contribution from Old Orchard Park hasn't occurred yet. That figure was 60,000 last year, and this year it's budgeted to be the same. Fund 265, this one is a little bit different. The drug forfeiture fund is new, and there was nothing in the appropriations in the budget for this one, so it was hard for me to fill my line out and have the calculations go through, and I believe they're working on that too. We did receive money from the police department in the amount of the $2,486, and that's due to they cleaned out their what word? I don't even know.
I think their property
room. Yeah, the
property room.
room.
Yeah.
That's they cleaned out the property room and did a lot of that stuff and brought up money and had us deposit that into that fund, and then they can use that moving forward. So I'm sure Tammy and Mitch will be working on getting the budgeted item fixed there, and the appropriation will probably have to come back to the board. Moving on to does anybody have questions about the revenues? Okay, going on to expenses. Expenses, Fund 101 is down. Contribution to the Police Fund 207 is down. It's down. It was last year, it was 110,000. And so it's a little bit lower than that, going to be lower than that this year. It's also down due to the purchase of the trackless tractor, and that was about $50,000. And that makes up the difference between the two. In Fund 206, purchase of the fire truck, that was a cash purchase, so that is clearly why we were down in that one. Fund 207, there's a big decrease, but last year in 2020, we purchased Motorola equipment, and there was also a vehicle purchase too. And we haven't done any of those type of purchases yet this year. Fund 236, the contribution to the general fund has not been made yet. And that amount's going to be $67,660. And it also contributed to the purchase of the trackless tractor. Fund 245 is down in the expenses. The difference between that right now only is the trackless tractor. There was a portion of that taken from 245 as well. 251 is up, and that's the LDFA. There was no checks written in 2020, but there was a very large check written this year for the first quarter. In Old Orchard Park Fund 509, the contributions, that one's down. The contributions for 2020 for the first quarter into general fund have not been done yet. And to the capital improvement, that amount is going to be 150,000 to the general fund and 60,000 to the capital improvement fund. And that'll change in the next quarter. Fund 591, water. We have not received the difference there. It's down. We have not received the Hushra water bill, and we have not contributed to the general fund of $45,000 yet. And that's the main differences there. And if you notice, when you're comparing my financial report to the fund balance, which comes out of Mitch and Tammy's office, you can kind of see the similarities in the balances, and that's kind of what we're looking for, to make sure that we're both got the same kind of graph going and the ending balance. I do want to say that nobody actually brought it up, but I figured somebody would catch it. But the very last line on the water fund in the projected fund balance, there's a negative figure of $843,000, 832. That number is going to change. I was a little frightened when I first saw that, but that number is going to change, because that's going to change when we're doing the new projects that we have coming up, and the appropriations will change when we get the grant money in. And so that will increase, which will lower that number down. Are there any questions?
No, I appreciate the summary. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. Yeah, so it's in that last number you were talking about, Jamie, I did see it, but I hadn't asked about it yet. So when you said that the grant money comes in, will it make the number positive?
It'll move towards the positive, yeah, because your appropriations will change, and then your revenue is going to change as well.
But I guess my question is, will it remain negative?
Hopefully not to the end of the year. That would not be ideal. That's more of a budgeting question for Mitch, and for Mitch would be my guess. But that's the way I see it playing out as we move forward. Okay. And I guess that's why we do this every quarter, so we can keep an eye on it.
That's right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I appreciate the summary, Jamie. I'd just like to see kind of with that last line item, I guess from Mitch, kind of with a timeline of when these amounts are going to come back, so we're tracking them appropriately.
For the water fund?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions on that? Okay. With that, then I'll take is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Now on to the subcommittee reports and project updates. We have the EIC director. Let me find Todd. And I'll ask him who else he wants me to unmute. I think I saw Ryan come in as well. Let me just find Todd. Where did he go? There he is. Hey, Todd.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I can.
All right. Well, hey, I just have a couple of brief updates for everybody. We always try to pack so much in. I don't like to overstay my welcome, but on the updates from my perspective, we had authorized or contracted a company called Mission North to look into some tax abatement strategies. And one of those strategies were for our industrial area out on the base, and then look at possibly some commercial stuff for us in the downtown. We had a kickoff meeting last week. So as the board approved, they're under contract. We actually had our kickoff meeting and had a lot of good conversation, a lot of good dialogue. I had members of the Planning Commission, Nancy from the Zoning and Assessor's Office were present, some EIC folks, myself. So I think I tried to grab a cross-pollination of everyone to at least have this kickoff meeting. We'll have a secondary and a follow-up meeting on May 6th, and I will continue to report to the board on our efforts. And then, of course, when we have some findings, we'll certainly bring the board in on those events as well. With regard to real estate and updates there, I've had a couple of good conversations with folks who are in fact interested in the Skeel Avenue property across from A&E. The board at our last meeting set a May 5th deadline for confidential and sealed proposals. We'll unveil those proposals at the work session on May 7th. But like I said, I've had some pretty strong interested parties. We've had actually some pre-development meetings get scheduled along the way, so those folks could ask questions, get answers on what this might look like. So I'm very optimistic that we will have, at a minimum, a couple of options to review come May 5th, if not several. So that's good stuff. And then as far as the mapping project for overall, everything the township owns, where is it? We have talked several weeks ago about the EIC, or specifically myself, completing sort of a mapping project. And I'll be honest, at that point, GIS was supposed to be unveiled to the township versus doing it manually and trying to come up with paper maps. And I was likened to wanting to do GIS if it was available to us. But I feel like through no one's fault on our end, I just don't have a good sense of what its availability is to us, how we're going to get trained on it, how long that might drag out. I'm almost of the opinion I'll just do it the good old-fashioned way, grind it out and put labor into it so that we can get over this hump. So again, I was trying to do it efficiently, not spend tons of hours, but I guess I'll have to spend tons of hours so I can get you guys something in a more timely fashion, and I'm willing to do that. So that is still a work in progress. And then lastly, at our last EIC meeting, we did in fact have a presentation from the MEDC and Eagle related to our Brownfield Authority and the Brownfield programs and what we could start doing to sort of maximize that opportunity for ourselves. I don't have the link handy tonight. I think Jamie will go view that link on her own after, once we recorded it. So I'm happy to send it out to all of the board. But I thought it was a very good and educational presentation. I would encourage all of the board members to go take a look, as the EIC will, really be rolling up our sleeves and try to figure out how we maximize that opportunity for ourselves. So that is the quick and dirty from the EIC.
Great.
Where was that? Where was that mission tax or the tax abatement you were talking about?
Yeah, so that's a contract that we have with a company called Mission North. And their objective is to evaluate our current tax abatement program that we have for industrial projects out on the base, and also look into what other opportunities we might develop in more of a commercial corridor on US 23.
Where was it though? Out on the what?
Yeah.
The meeting itself?
The meeting
No, the
itself.
special tax abatement. I'm giving them a hard time because we don't
Oh.
call it
The
the base
location.
anymore. It's not the
Oh.
base
I'm
anymore.
sorry.
It's the Wordsmith Airport District.
No,
The
it's
Wordsmith District, this district.
So
Read
other
our
than that, it
sign.
sounded great, Mr. Dickerson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I just had a question, Todd. When you said you were meeting with the potential developers for the Skeel property, so everybody that has shown an interest is being invited to talk about the infrastructure, or just wondering how that is happening?
So anybody who has come to me to say, hey, I'm interested in learning more about the opportunities, we have dialogue, and then these folks have requested on their own an opportunity to talk to the powers that be. So at Q&A, we, in the guided development, it's either called a joint review meeting or a pre-development meeting. And those
Okay.
people have asked to, hey, how do I learn more about the infrastructure there? How do I learn more about this site? And so these developers have asked me to set up a meeting.
Okay, and I think I mentioned this to you when we met out at Ani before, but there is a whole file on the demolition project that was done in that area. Because that was, that would have an indication of what was left where and so on. So that's in my former office. I can get that for you. That might be helpful.
Pass it on to those who, again, those parties who have proactively come to me and saying, hey, I'd like to learn more about this site so I can turn in a good proposal, are the ones that we're scheduling meetings with.
I'll see if I can find that file, and we'll see if there's anything helpful in there. There might be something. So,
all right.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Todd before we move on to the lengthy Rick's presentation? It's gonna be a little long, so.
Thank you for putting me first. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I bet you owe us. Nothing against you, Rick, but.
Well, I'm sticking around. We have one other item and other if we get to it, so I'll be here.
Okay. All right. Okay,
right,
thank you. Thanks for the update. So with that, I'm going to unmute Rick.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, sorry, Rick. I was just teasing.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And there are other components follow up later on in the meeting, so I will try to keep this portion of the report brief, and because some of the other portions under Mitch's report and the resolution side might take a little longer. So
okay.
Under the future water main phases, Phase A in Woodland, we are getting closer to finalizing that project as far as funding goes. I know there's been a lot of public interest as far as when that's going. That is still on schedule for startup probably in the July-August timeframe, with completion yet this year. A lot of the interest has been with the property owners and the service leads. That project has the potential of adding 82 service leads to the system based on the information that we have. Now, that doesn't mean that all of them will sign up, but that's the maximum amount. Phase B, G, and F41. We took bids on that project back on April 8th. We received 3 bids. Later on in the meeting, there'll be a conditional tentative recommendation to go with Caterman Trucking. They were the as read and responsive bidder. When I say tentative, it still has to go through the whole EGLE process that they go through. Essentially, it's more of a formality, but it's not official until we close on the project in early June, or maybe a little bit sooner than that. So the project bid came in roughly $1 million under the estimate for the project, which we are kind of seeing across the board. On water projects, the projects are coming in, under the estimate. There seems to be a fair amount of interest out there. So competition is always good. So, so that project will be moving forward here shortly. If everything goes well and we close in June, notice to proceed will be shortly thereafter. And all indications, talking to Caterman, they are ready to get started right away. So we'll have that project underway. And for everybody's information, the streets that are involved in that, Phase B is Oscoda Street east, then that's Cedar Lake to North Huron / US 23. Beach Street, Cedar Lake Road to North Huron, US 23. And Green Street, Oscoda Street to Beach Street. Phase G is Oakland Drive, which is River Road to Pinecrest Trail. Pinecrest Alley, which is River Road to Oakland Drive, and Pinecrest Trail, River Road to Oakland Drive. It's the loop that's down there off from River Road. And then the the F41 portion is just southeast of Ray Road, where the water main project wrapped up, I believe, back in the late 2008, 2009 timeframe, out to Colbath. So that's the physical limits of the project. And like I said, we'll be getting notice proceeds out on that sometime in early June. Rest of the projects are sitting out there. The biggest thing that we are waiting for is an answer on the funding application, the total grant funding application, the C2R2 grant. We were anticipating getting answers on that last month, but with what we're hearing behind the scenes with the additional federal funding, federal stimulus money out there, that program could be expanding, which is good for all applicants that submitted. But what it's but what it's doing is it's pushing the award out, or notice of award out, till probably now the first part of May. And if you remember, that grant can go backwards and fund other unfunded portions of past projects and capture any outstanding service leads and all that stuff, along with funding phases C, D, and F, and the remaining portion of H, which will significantly reduce the cost, both in construction and design and all those services that would be township responsibility. The sanitary sewer project, we also opened bids on the same day, April 8th. Unfortunately, we only had one bid on that project, RCL Construction. And as I said, the water main project came in $1 million under budget. The sanitary sewer project came $1 million over budget. Not to be concerned, the whole we had to verify with Eagle adjusts accordingly. That's one of the delays that it took this long to kind of pull everything together and get it into your packets tonight. So we're going to be proceeding with the bid, but we will not be making a formal recommendation tonight or any other resolutions on the CWSRF project tonight. That's going to slip a month or two because obviously, like I said, the budget issue, and then also we are going through, per Eagle's request, a value engineering with the contractor to see where we can cut back on costs. What has happened is on the sanitary sewer systems, pump stations, controls, and all of that stuff, we are seeing a significant spike just within the last couple of months as far as material, the components, and also the lead time, the delivery time on the components. So the fact that we had this project set up for a 2-year construction cycle, the delay in closing till July or August won't necessarily impact the overall schedule. It will also hopefully give us a chance at some better prices, along with, like I said, the value engineering. And if you remember right, this one is that there's a percentage of the overall project that, and I think it's at 28%, 25%, that the township will receive principal forgiveness based on the budget estimates and stuff. That was a principal forgiveness of 1.33 million on this. So again, so we're reworking all those numbers with Eagle, and more likely than not, at probably the second meeting in May, we will have a recommendation going forward on that, and then a better handle on the schedule. Specific funding opportunities, again, probably the only, the two that have kind of come up since my last report, and I think I mentioned it at the first meeting this month. We did put together a information for State Representative Susan Aller's office, very similar to the Kilde's office, U.S. Representative Dan Kilde's office that we had done the month before. Again, providing the information which they all know of as far as the contamination that you are experiencing, and then also the the missing funding components and all that stuff that have kind of come in as far as looping of the water main, service leads, and all of that stuff. So we've submitted that to her office, and with the hope that we'll see something out of it. It's similar MEDC money that you got a couple of years ago when we were going through phase 1 and phase 2. I believe it came one of those appropriations came from her office, and that helped us cover some of those service lead costs back then. Old Orchard Campground, the public dock, or the shoreline erosion. John Henry Excavating has completed phase 1, which is the installation of the steel sheet piling, removal of the existing sheeting and the decking, installation of the new shoreline steel sheet piling, and they have put in a temporary gravel surface in there behind it, because as if you remember, phase 2 of the project will consist of all of the wood decking and the stairs. That'll be in next year's schedule, next year's budget. But they've completed the shoreline sheeting, the backfilling so that the boaters will still have easy access to the boats this summer. And then they also completed the drainage out there, which will significantly reduce the erosion coming down the bank across the the edge of the beach area. Checked with Gary and Al out there at the campground. They are very happy with the project. I was able to get out there and take a look at it the end of last week. Again, very good workmanship. Very pleased with the effort that John Henry's put in there. And later on tonight in the agenda will be the recommendation to pay them for that work. Phase 3 of the trail project, we're moving forwards towards submitting preliminary plans for a grade inspection review and start the full obligation process of that project with MDOT. We should be submitting those plans for that meeting to be scheduled sometime mid-May. The schedule will be that review meeting, which is really the significant review by MDOT, make sure that the project is to their standards and meets all of their criteria. That meeting will take place in probably June or July. with the project being ready for bids in the October-November timeframe, with construction starting, tree removal starting there shortly thereafter, and hopefully significantly under construction and completed in the season of 2022. We're in the final stages of the remaining funding opportunities that we were chasing after to finish the local match and commitment. We're pretty confident that those are going to be coming in a timely fashion. And the last one that we've gotten started is the patron assistity MEDC grant, which we're hoping I think it's Roberta at Oscoda Township, the Trail Committee. They're taking an active stance on this, and the goal will be to raise as much as $50,000, which then would be matched by the grant of $50,000. So that'd be another $100,000 component for that project. So starting to see some significant project progress moving forward on that. The Wordsmith base infrastructure utility evaluation project. We've got the base drawings complete, the evaluation of the water model for the existing capacity within the project area is being looked at. We're looking at evaluating the existing road system based on the information we got from Iosco County Road Commission to identify ingress and egress routes and the associated conditions. And then we are starting to look at possible funding sources, application requirements, and time considerations. One of those that we think will be a potential for this is if some of the board members can remember, back in December 19, January 2020, we submitted on a CBDG MEDC grant for utility improvements. It was a pretty significant undertaking as far as potential funding, but when we went through the process, one of the criteria that they have is they will not fund extensions of projects, which are obviously all of our water main work is that way, but it will, the applications are out again. They're due the end of May. And this, because we are working on the existing system, no extensions, improvements to the existing, improvement to capacity, we think it might be a pretty viable application that we'll be looking at submitting for that. Ratliff Park ADA, just an update there. Obviously, we submitted the passport grant. We're waiting on results of that, which we would think should hear something on that in hopefully the July timeframe, which then would put this project in place to maybe as early as this fall when the lake is drawn down to start some of the construction, and then have the system up and functional for summer of 2022. So with that, that's my engineering report. I'll gladly answer any questions that anybody has. And then, like I said, later on, we'll get into a little bit more of the details on the next step in the water main project with the letter of recommendation and the resolutions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Rick right now?
Yeah, Rick, Bill Palmer, just one real quick question. I sent you an email. I forwarded you an email from Congressman Kildee's office as it relates to the Mission Street charge for pumping into the storm sewer system.
Mm-hmm.
No, your company did an extensive review of that ordinance and came up with what I thought was a reasonable cost. I don't know what, there weren't any numbers in that. Do you have any idea of what they're talking about in terms of?
I could probably go back and find the documentation. Because the first one that we did, which was the station like off from Skeel over in that area, the GAC plant over there.
Yeah.
And they did the exact same thing when we submitted those calculations, that they had their, either it's internal, the Air Force or somebody else, take a look at it and review it. And almost the exact same thing, that they said that they didn't necessarily agree with our approach, but they were going to take a look at it and come back with some revised numbers. During that time, they came back and they said, well, essentially, we don't agree with you, but we'll accept your numbers. So we'll see, I guess, what they come back with on this one. Again, we use the same approach, the same formulas, the same assumptions and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see what they come back and say is different or why it's different. So, but as soon as you or any, are in receipt of that, we'll gladly take a look at that and provide you our evaluation of it.
Okay, all right. And the other question I had is on the water main extension, the bids for that. I indicated Friday that I had some concerns about the low bidder. And are we locked into that? I see it was in the proposal on the resolution, but
yeah, and we did too. Just again, part of the process is going through, making sure that the bid is responsive, making sure that they provided all the information that is required in the bid package, along with what Eagle requires. And we have to follow, as long as they meet all the criteria, we have to work and follow Eagle's criteria and accept them based on the fact that they are the as-read responsible bidder. Now again, like I said, it's tentative tonight because Eagle still needs to verify a few things, but we see no indication that Eagle will find anything out of the ordinary, and we will just make sure, as we do on all the projects, that the contractor is aware of their their requirements, their responsibilities, to make sure that they meet the contract documents to the satisfaction of the township. So.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Rick? And he's going to be on the line still for the other agenda items. The longest resolution in history is coming on later on in the agenda, I think. So I did have one question. You mentioned RCL, I think.
Yes.
Is that, and I know you weren't here when we did the pier in 2012, but I feel like that was the contractor that was, did work for us, was RCL. But I don't know why that was for sewer. Seems like that would be highly unlikely, but
yeah,
it was RCL. Maybe it's just a different.
My guess is it was a different contractor.
Okay.
Because RCL specializes in sanitary sewer pump stations, and that, not to say some of these contractors are large and they have different
Right. Diversify.
Yeah, so it's possible, but I highly doubt it's this group.
Right.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.
or hear you soon.
I'll be here.
All right. So actually next on is the Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority update. I just had a couple things I wanted to make the board aware of. Again, as supervisor, I do sit on that board. Just wanted to mention that this summer, the United States Air Force Air Mobility Command is preparing to conduct an exercise called the Mobility Guardian 2021. They've been discussing this for the last year, so I know you've heard about it, but this military exercise is scheduled for May 14th through the 27th. Representatives of that group have identified the airport as a viable location for establishing a temporary base for supporting exercise operations. Those activities will include conducting flight operations involving 6 air-to-air refueling capable aircraft and delivery and removal of equipment with cargo carrying aircraft. They're going to have an encampment out on the airport authority. They're going to stay contained to a specific area. They're looking between 300 to 350 military personnel. But again, all the food, everything, due to COVID, they're going to be contained out in that area. So we really won't see them in and around the community at all. They had indicated that maybe the week or so before, there might be a few people here to set some stuff up and they'd be utilizing area hotels. But for the most part, the exercise is going to be contained completely to the Air Force, to the Airport Authority area. So just want to make you aware of that. And the Airport Authority is working on an agreement in regard to allowing, which will, they're going to be because they already have a contract with the Air Force, providing water and then allowing them to discharge their gray water into our lagoon system. So there's an agreement in place on that. Then also Michigan Launch Initiative. We were provided an update in regard to the application itself has been submitted to the FAA. That was done in mid-April. They are shooting, according to Gavin Brown, they again are shooting for things to move at the speed of business, not at the speed of government. And so they're shooting for an 18-month review process. The prediction by Gavin was that we will not see anything in the area till probably about 2023 from things happening for the community. That being said, things are happening behind the scenes. So we want to make sure that the public understands that we're still, everything is looking positive. It's still moving forward in a positive direction. And we're going to start, Gavin had indicated that he's going to have an update, like a one-sheeter, if you will, with some information that he's going to provide to Gary. We're going to get it on the Airport Authority website. We're going to share it with the press and just kind of keep the positive momentum discussions, occurring, because, we don't want people to think that we've done anything wrong to lose this initiative. It's just a bit of a process, according to Gavin. So things are looking good. But again, it's, going to be a good 18 months from now. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that. All right. After that, we are now on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Mitchell, we have 10 items to start with. We have the Munitrix invoice.
Okay, so the township uses Munitrix for the CBTRS CIP reporting to the state of Michigan. I recommend the board make a motion to approve the Munitrix invoice in the amount of $2,844.
I move to approve the Munitrix invoice in the amount of $2,844.
Support.
Wow, I don't know who to pick.
Everybody loves Munitrix.
Yeah, I believe the motion was made by Mr. Spencer, and I'm going to give support to Ms. McGuire. It was a tie between her and Josh, but I think I'll give it to Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the dust control bid tab.
The dust control bids were received and opened on Friday, the 23rd. The bid tabulation sheet that was sent out as part of the packet shows that we received 2 bids. The recommendation is that the board would go with the bid from Liquid Calcium Chloride Sales with a 26% brine at 0.287 cents and a 35% Liquidow at 0.557 cents.
Okay, is there any discussion or questions?
I think we only use the one. We only use the Liquidow when we're doing that. We used to use just the brine, but the Liquidow seemed to work so much better that we just use that. It's more expensive. We use it less often. I don't think we use both. At least that's not what we've done in the past.
Okay.
Is the Liquidow the one where they wrote in the partial load?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a recommendation to go with the liquid calcium chloride sales bid.
I move that we accept the bid from Liquid Calcium Chloride Sales, Inc.
Support.
Okay.
I think I heard, Mr. Spencer made the motion and I believe Mr. Sutton had the support on that.
Yep.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the analytical services invoice for capital improvement bonds.
Okay, this invoice is from S&P Global for $11,812.50. This is for analytical services in conjunction with $5,335,000 in capital improvement bonds associated with the various water main extension projects being worked on by the township in cooperation with Rowe Engineering and Baker Tilly. The recommendation is the board make a motion to approve the S&P Global invoice in the amount of $11,812.50.
I move to approve Standard & Poor's Financial Services LLC invoice in the amount of $11,812.50.
Support.
I have a question.
Okay,
Mitch, do you have a general ledger number where that's coming from?
I do not at the ready at this moment.
Okay.
So
I'll be-
these type of funds though would be a reimbursable cost against the bond.
Okay, but yeah, in order for us to process the payment tomorrow or this
Yeah.
week, I would have to have that number.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay,
We will get it. Yeah.
okay, there's a motion by
And
Mr. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have a question to follow up with what was just discussed. So then do we also need a follow-on to provide an allocation after this vote, if this vote were to pass?
Like it's not in the, I mean, was it budgeted for?
Not in the budget? No, doesn't sound like it. That's what I was just hearing from
No.
Mitch. So are we going to need a follow-on motion to provide an allocation? And I guess that at that point is going to be from where? Do you know where that's going to come from, Mitch?
I do not at this moment. So
Well, it's not going to be productive for us to
Sure.
to approve this payment if we don't have an account from which to pull it from.
Does it need to be paid right this very second, or do we have, is this something that we can postpone until we can get the required information?
we could probably wait till the next meeting. This is kind of, all these things are kind of linked in together with resolution and all right. Yeah, we can wait.
I was gonna say, there's
Well,
no,
then-
it doesn't have a net
No, that's-
term on there. I don't see, but
That's fine.
Well, then I will rescind my motion and make a new motion to postpone the S&P Global invoice in the amount of $11,812.50 to our next regularly scheduled board meeting, pending providing information on which account and where we're going to allocate the funds from.
Support.
okay, we need to vote on that, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, next on is the fire department pager purchase.
Okay, you have in your packet proposal to purchase 33 total pagers in the amount of $26,446.50.
This is the pagers that are being, or for the upgrade to the 800 megahertz system. That's
That's
right.
correct.
Okay.
And to do so, we're going to need,
Same thing we needed for the last one, right?
yeah, we're going to need an appropriation of funds to fire communications, which is 101,336 850,000.
Okay, we have to approve it first and then the allocation if it's not already there.
Yes.
All right, well then I move to approve the Digicom global quote number 02 for the pagers in the 800 megahertz band for the amount of $26,446.50.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings for the purchase. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. We now need a motion for the allocation of funds. Correct?
I'll make a motion that we make an appropriation to Fund 101-336-850-00 to be made in the amount of $26,447.
I support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer for the appropriation.
I just have a bill. I think you stated the wrong amount. It should be $26,446.50, not $440.
You rounded up.
He rounded up.
You rounded up.
You round up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
Just to make sure it's covered.
All right. For the stamp, right?
That's right.
That would require an adjustment.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on the agenda is code enforcement demolition. Mitch?
Okay, so we talked about this a bit on Friday, but it's been discovered that this is coming from the chief, that fees are funds for this purpose were placed in under professional fees 207-000-801-000. It's interesting because this fund, that one I just mentioned, or that line item, typically gets completely drained every year for pretty much everything but that. But we could do this and then, but I will tell you, we'll probably have to come back later and make a budget adjustment again anyway, if that is actually the case. So we can leave that as is and then we'll just proceed, but just know that there's almost likely going to be from discussing this with one of the sergeants today, that this line item typically gets drained out about halfway through the year for other things. So we'll probably come back to this professional fees and probably have to make a budget amendment at that time. But if there are supposedly funds for this, and like I said, I didn't find a narrative to that effect, we can use this up until it's gone, and then we'll proceed as planned. So I don't need to ask for an appropriation to the police miscellaneous line item at this time.
Yeah, I think Mitch, as we talked about this afternoon when I mentioned this to you, that this is already previous superintendent appropriated amount to this line item. It used to be only 16,000. That's why it was depleted. If you look at, anybody wants to look on page 150 of the packet, that 207-000-801, there's $34,000 in that line item right now. They've only used $750 so far this year out of that. So I think we're covered pretty well on that. The reason it was depleted before is that there was a limited amount of money that was appropriated to that. That was from 16,000 to 34,000. So
I had a question though. Can't we do, Jamie? I mean, I know before we had done like so you have a GL account and then you can, add like another 3, like at the end, like subcategories or whatever. Couldn't we do a subcategory for demolition or something?
Yeah, you could create your own expense line item if you wanted to track that. Yes.
Yeah, I guess moving forward.
I don't know
would
how often it happens though that you have to do that.
Right. Well, I just think professional services is kind of a vague, is generally a little bit different than demolition, so I just think it'd be an easier way to track moving forward, because then we'd know what's budgeted for what. But we can't do anything this year, obviously, but.
Right.
What needs to be tracked is any money that's collected from taxes, because once these go in, once we get a ruling from the court on this, we move forward, then it's put on the tax rolls for whatever our cost is. If we collect that, that money comes into the general fund, but should be transferred back into this fund so that to keep that,
That's right.
keep that fund balance going forward. So that's
We
what I would
also,
be
Bill,
transferred.
we also get checks from the insurance companies to hold. If they don't clean it up themselves and we have to clean it up, we keep that money.
Right. And eventually that money should be transferred back into this line item so that amount, continues going forward. So like Mitch said, we don't have to make a separate report. We may in the future, but if any monies that come into the township that were related to this should go back into that fund to, reimburse those monies.
Just so you know, you can't receipt it into an expense. It would have to go in the revenue side.
Yeah.
Right, but we transfer it over though. Point is to recuperate it back into this account. We're taking money from here.
It can't do that, but it would go into a revenue line item, which would offset it for you, but yeah.
Yeah, so we can budget.
Not directly.
Yeah.
That's not directly in one shot. We don't deposit to it, but I understand your point. We just have to recoup the money back into this account in the end. So
Anyway, we can skip the code
All
enforcement.
right. Okay, so we can go on to cemetery revenue owed to Isabel Township.
Yeah, so a portion of the revenues received from the cemetery are paid to Oscoda Township as per an agreement. This amount, which is $6,487.55, that's a combined owed for 2019 and 2020. I'd recommend this payment in the amount of $6,487.55 be paid to Oscoda Township for their portion of the cemetery revenue. And I'm sure Jamie can talk about this in more.
You covered it pretty well, unless anybody has a question.
Is that, isn't
actually,
that supposed to be paid yearly?
Yes,
thank you. That was
and
my question.
we just got that caught up last year in 2020 for previous years. I'm sorry, in 2019. It's been a while. So we did, we caught them up from, I think it was 15 to 18, I want to say.
Yeah.
So we've had to catch them up in the past, and now we're catching them up again. Well, I don't understand why if it's supposed to be paid on a yearly basis, what's the holdup? Why isn't that being done?
I don't know why it didn't get done in 2019, but I realized that it wasn't being done. So I looked at it and I decided to add it to my beginning of the year things to do. Actually, it's contracted, it's a contracted service with Isabel, which is under the superintendent's job duties in their resolution.
Interesting. Well, in any case, I move that we pay Isabel Township $6,487.55 for their portion of the cemetery revenue for 2019 and for 2020.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next on, we have the legal services contract.
Okay, you have that proposed agreement in the packet, which would basically employ Tim Friel to represent the Oscoda Township as legal counsel. The agreement would commence starting tomorrow and would continue for a period of 1 year, and then the parties may elect to extend the contract for 1 additional year. And that's all actually outlined in number 1 of the agreement. So you have the agreement before you, and if you are fine with the agreement as it is written, you can act on it then accordingly.
No,
Okay,
I
discussion.
I move to approve the agreement.
I support.
Okay, is there any discussion? All right, roll call, please. I'm sorry.
Mr. Cummings,
Oh, wait, I forgot to do the motion and motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Westerbar. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
No,
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, no, Ms. Richards,
No, motion carried. Okay, moving on to the OOP erosion project payment request number 1.
Okay, this is in the packet. The amount asked for in this would be pay application 1 is $123,000. In looking at the CIP, this was actually booked for 2020, unless you encumbered that, which I don't think you did. The remaining balance in the CIP for OOP for Old Orchard Capital Improvement Fund 218, right now it stands at $51,475. So we would take those funds, the $51,475, apply it against that $123,000, and then we would have to find the bulk of that from Fund 509 to pay the rest. And so I will almost guarantee we will have to come back to the 2001 capital improvement and make an adjustment going forward, because he still has let's see, a garage roof replacement, a park office generator that has not been done, and a 30-foot yurt with decking and furniture. So anticipating that those projects will still take place, we will probably have to make an adjustment accordingly. But that's where this will, this billing for $123,000 will come from. It'll be the $51,475 and the bulk coming out of various line items from Fund 509.
What's the name on Fund 509?
Well, it asked me.
I could.
Old Orchard Park.
Orchard.
Oh, it's Old Orchard Park. All right.
Yeah.
So that's just like their overall like general fund, or
Right.
okay.
And then we'll have to make probably a budget amendment accordingly.
Does that need to?
I can almost see that what'll happen is we'll end up tapping out everything else, and we'll have to make some adjustments accordingly. So.
Is there enough money in the account 509 Old Orchard Park to cover the difference?
Taking from various places, yes.
All right. And what was? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ann.
Oh, I was just gonna say, any further discussion? I kind of lost what we were approving, to be honest with you.
I think
Basically,
we're.
this is the phase 1 of the seawall project that Rick talked just. What,
Okay,
20
that John Henry's doing for the soil erosion.
That is correct.
Okay,
when is that work going to be done?
The phase 2 will be next year.
No, when is phase 1 being completed?
It is completed.
Yeah, it's done. That's why we're paying them.
Yeah.
Okay, but we don't know where I I don't see a fund number that we're paying them from.
Well, the 51,475 is going to come out of the CIP, and the rest will come from Fund 509 from various line items from 509.
So,
That's the best I can do,
okay,
unless we make a budget amendment.
Well, so Mitch, that's generally the point, is that when we're making these payments, they're coming from the place in the budget where the money was already budgeted. Allocations are used throughout the year to adjust balances at line items so that when we decide we're going to make an expenditure such as this, or such as anything else that may not have been budgeted for initially, we have the money in there. What we are not going to do is start writing checks against line items that don't have sufficient funds. We've been through this in years past. We're not going to repeat that. So if these invoices aren't going to come to the meeting predetermined for where the money is coming from, then I'm going to ask you to stop submitting them, because you're just creating a bunch of confusion here in our meeting.
That's fine.
So should we do an appropriation now, or should we postpone it, Mr. Cummings?
He doesn't know where it's coming from, if you heard his answer.
Postpone.
I move to postpone the contractor's application for payment number 1 in the amount of $123,000 for John Henry Excavating until our next regularly scheduled board meeting, so that more information about the accounts may be provided.
Support.
There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, a support by Mr. Cummings to postpone. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
yes,
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
No, I think this is very unfair to our contractor.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
I would agree with Bill. No. All right, motion carried. Moving on to the DWRF water main extension bid tabulation.
Rick, do you want to take this one?
As I mentioned in my report, this is the tentative conditional recommendation to award the drinking water revolving fund project to Caterman Trucking in the amount of $1,034,163.50. Again, the Caterman Trucking has provided all the required contract documents in accordance with the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle, Drinking Water, State Revolving Fund. It is my recommendation to the Oscoda Township Board of Trustees tentatively award the water system improvements to Caterman Trucking, as I said, in the amount of $1,034,163.50. This award will be considered tentative until Eagle issues the formal order of approval. A resolution to tentatively award the construction contract for the water system improvements will be undertaken later in the meeting. So, along with this recommendation is the bid tabulations. As I said, the engineer's estimate was $1,514,999. Caterman was $1,034,163.50. John Henry Excavating was $1,298,408. And Elmer's Crane and Dozier was $1,858,911. That is my recommendation to the board.
Okay, do we have any questions or?
Are we locked into the low bid on this one, or can we choose an alternate?
You have to, because they met all the conditions of Eagle, you have to go with the low bid.
Well, then I move to tentatively approve the Phase 4 project for the water system improvements to Cotterman Trucking in the amount of $1,034,163.50. And it will remain tentative until Eagle issues a formal order of approval.
Is there support for that motion?
We need it. Do we need a motion here or just approve the resolution later on?
Good point.
You need to approve the recommendation and then the
recommendation.
formal resolution later.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's a
Support.
motion by Mr., I think we already had it, but thanks.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Oh. Dwarf. Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Okay. Sorry, I just have a quick question. When, for the share screen, are you seeing the agenda? Or are you seeing, me looking at the bid comparison? I'm just curious.
It's the agenda.
Agenda.
Okay, all right.
What's the-
Just didn't know
what's
how
the
that
top
worked.
Part of it.
All right,
Yeah, you're not showing the part that we're actually at.
okay. Well, I'm trying to be tricky. Okay, let me just find where the agenda went. Okay, moving on, sorry. Next on the agenda is IT rate contract.
Do you, either of the trustees want to talk about your proposed changes?
Sure, I can talk about that. So, as requested by the board, I met with Jeremy to talk about the concerns we had over the contract, and I provided feedback to Mitch on Saturday around 6:00 p.m. Effectively, the points are that we want to include the board member laptops issued by Oscoda Township in the list of covered equipment, and specifically exclude personally owned equipment as equipment that wouldn't be covered by our support. There is a lot of verbiage I put under what was called Section 6 of the contract, which had to do with explaining to IT Right that they obviously would already know it, but you wouldn't think so because of the way the contract was written, and our access to 24/7 support isn't really quite there. So I made it really clear that we are a 365 or 24/7, 365 day operation. And because of our police department, fire department, government offices during business week, and then the Old Orchard Park. So I just wanted to also point out here to the board for your information and to be transparent even for the public that there was a service outage at Old Orchard Park on April 16th. It was a Friday. It was not clear as to what the source of the outage was, the cause, but there was conversations that went into Saturday between ATI and myself and Al Absidas, the Director of Parks and Recreation, trying to identify how we were going to get this resolved, and we were directed to IT Right. IT Right's after-hours support phone number did not manage an after-hours support call properly. We were unable to reach anyone at IT Right, and the only way, which meant that we ended up having to call on Monday and speak to them, and at which point then we got everything resolved, but that delayed the agony of having prolonged the agony of having a phone and internet service outage. So I put it into the email to Mitch that we need to be very clear with IT Right that if they're going to have an after-hours service, we need to know how to reach somebody. We also need to know when they're going to pick up the message. And that takes me into another part of this email, which was the service level agreement and response time commitments. You know, this is where IT Right should be providing us a little bit more guideline here, because maybe more than other townships, we really are that 24/7 operation, being that we have the park, especially in the police department, fire department. For those smaller municipalities that don't have those safety services in a park, I can understand why that, you know, a business week would be sufficient, but for us it's not. And that really highlights the majority of it. There's some more requests for information regarding how they were going to manage backups and issues with backups, but this was sufficient to volley back to them. I expect that they will respond back with some updates. They might have some more questions, but I think there's enough information here for them to provide us a new version of the contract with more definition.
I had a question in section 11. It's the one that says
Sure.
superintendent is the primary contact for the township hall, which includes the government, police, and fire departments. So if we have a problem, then we need to let the superintendent know? Or can we still call them ourselves?
Well, that's a good question. This is after our support for section 11, if I remember correctly. This had to do with the primary contact. The intention here was to make it possible for us to reach, not just to have support over the weekend, but if work needed to be completed where we were to be charged, this was going to cover who would have the authority to ask for that support.
So, here's the
And that's
scenario.
also covered in 2 paragraphs right above. And oh, and by the way, and I don't know, and I don't, just add one other caveat here, I don't know how it's done right now. I thought that each organization, the township versus the police department, had their own control point for this. And so I think Tammy Klein was the one for the government offices, and Gina was the control point for the police department, fire department. If that's not true, then we update the language.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody used to just call IT Right if they had their own problem. And they would log the event, and then they would contact us back because people are not there or gone to lunch, or let's say I'm here on the weekend or at night doing my taxes and there's a major problem. I mean, not that it couldn't wait till the next day, but the weekend, then I would have to track down the superintendent in order to get my problem taken care of.
No, that is not going to be the meaning of that. In section 11, it talks about a primary contact point, which is basically who do they reach out and report to?
Okay.
Like, in other words, if they're going to provide feedback or statistics about help desk tickets or whatever, that's the person that they're looking for. And I just differentiated it between who would be managing Township Hall essentially, and who would be managing the parks.
That's okay. That explains it. Thanks, Tim.
You're very welcome. I can see your problem with that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't want to have to try to find somebody.
No. And actually, there's no language in the contract that prevents anybody from reporting a ticket. It doesn't require special permission for that. It really was more in the couple earlier paragraphs where it was the who had authority to encumber cost charges, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one I was concerned about. Thank you.
Okay, so are we looking, I guess, we're looking to embed this in the contract? Is that what we need a motion on, or what are we looking for?
I don't know that we need a motion. I just think if there isn't any disagreement, I think Mitch can just forward it on to IT Right. They can use it to make amendments to the contract.
Okay.
As well as did anyone else?
Another iteration.
Sorry, Mr. Cummings.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if anyone else, now that you guys have, all the board members have had a chance, and Mr. Mitchell has had a chance to review the document that Tim so graciously typed up for us both. Are there any additions, any other questions? You guys have anything else you'd like to see in that, or?
Nope.
No, we pretty much empowered you guys to handle it, so.
Right on, just checking. I just like to make sure.
So I'm good
everybody's-
with that. Thanks.
All right.
Moving on.
All right. Okay, so we don't need any action then, correct?
No, just
Okay.
other than Mitch
Okay.
can be directed to go. and
Mitch can
send the
go.
email.
Okay, awesome. Moving on to resolutions and ordinances then. First resolution on this evening is resolution 2021-10, designation of depositories. Depositories, yeah.
As I stated in the email that I sent out Friday, it's kind of just a housekeeping thing. Whenever names of banks change or we invest in a new bank or move our major funds to another bank, I'm obligated to update this. And with the change from Chemical Bank to TCF, that's why I'm bringing this back to the board for approval.
Well, then I move to approve resolution number 2021-10, designation of depositories.
Support.
Okay,
I'd
we
like
have,
to make one correction to that we correct the signatory page. Put the new clerk on there instead of the previous clerk.
Oh, I thought I did that. Sorry. Yep.
Oh, good catch. Good
point.
Thank
catch.
you.
all righty.
I will amend my motion to
Yeah,
to
we might
include the
have a
update
new-
of the clerk's contact information.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Cummings for resolution 2021-10. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is resolution 2021-11. Basically, we had the public hearing earlier this evening. We did hear a little bit of public comment. At this point in time, the board needs to make a decision on whether or not they are comfortable moving forward with the special assessment district as proposed. If so, we would pass resolution number 2021-11.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-11.
support,
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton, to pass resolution 2021-11. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on, we have resolution 2021-12, senior citizens millage. Don't know who wants to take this.
I
Josh or-
I have a comment on this. I don't believe it's correct. It was rewritten once. The original, I pointed out on Friday that there was some mistakes in this. It was rewritten. I still don't believe it's correct. In the second whereas, previously voted special millage needs to be renewed in August 21 to provide for the continuous funding of said purpose, stating, I think that should be starting January 1st of 2021. This is not starting in January 2021 when we're in voting in August of 2021.
Right.
And
yes,
when it
but
comes
those are
to,
updated now. You didn't get the other copy, Bill?
well, I got the copy that
It's
was
not
in the,
updated. It's not updated in the amended minutes. I don't
No,
know
we
where that was
updated
coming
it when
from.
I got in today because I was out at the hospital all day. So I apologize if you guys didn't get the updated copy, but Tammy and Jamie and me sat down and went over that.
No, the new one's in here because the changes are done. If you're looking at the one in the board packet, Bill, it does say said purpose start, it should state, it says stating, it should be starting January 1st, 2021.
Right.
And ending December 25. What that's referring to, I believe, is the calendar year for that. So I do think that that date is right. If you look at previous resolutions, I pulled up the one from that we did before this one. The same thing, because I had a bunch of things that I sent to Josh for corrections as well. And it does state it, because it's saying that it starts January 21st, 21, but it doesn't The millage won't start until December of that same year. So it's covering that whole calendar year like the taxes do.
Well, this year has already been covered. This year is already covered, right?
No,
No,
no, it's not.
our
'cause it
last agreement
ended.
went through December 2020.
Yes,
So this one starts the January through to meet those dates. So we have that money at the end of the year.
correct.
Wasn't there a millage issued in December of 2020 for 2021?
No, that millage is for 2020.
You do
Covered
millage
it.
arrears?
It covers, yes, correct. It covers that calendar year. The December bill covers the calendar year from January 1st to December 31st.
Of that same year
Correct.
or the following year?
The taxes for December go out December 1st. They're not
I
due
understand
until February, but yes, correct.
But
It's
but
covering that
taxes,
period.
the taxes that are paid in December are for taxes that are for the next year.
For,
Yes.
So if, in other words, if I pay my taxes in December of 2020,
Right.
in 2021, that's when those taxes are applied. If I sell my house halfway through 2021, I get part of that money back.
it's
That's
a,
correct.
it's
Yeah.
assessed based on what's there of December 31st of the year before. That's how the taxes are. You don't use it until the next year, correct, for your next year's budget, but it's assessed in that year, the year behind.
They're in arrears.
Right, we pay in
Right,
arrears.
it's in arrears, right. Yeah, that's
you look-
assessed and then paid a year later. That makes sense.
I have a copy of the last resolution that was done. And I reviewed it to make sure the dates were right, because there were some of the dates that were incorrect. So looking for my copy, unless I tossed it because they fixed it. Let me look. Actually, be faster for me to just look it up again. Let me see here. It wasn't really my thing to talk about, so. Let me
Appreciate
look
the
that
help
up.
though.
Just a second. Resolutions. 2016. Okay, so I'm looking at the 2016-08 resolution and the wording for that. And it says, meeting. Establish a second. Years. This one doesn't have the year on it.
While you're looking, Jamie, I wanted to point out as I was reading the version that is currently in the amended board pack, I spotted another typo.
Okay.
It's in the third whereas, and the third whereas it should have, after the semicolon, should have the word and, because the whereas paragraph always ends in a semicolon and it just needs another one to join it into the now therefore. So
I apologize. I can't seem to locate the control. Hang on. Maybe it's this one.
the resolution I'm reading it says there, previously voted special should be millage, not mileage.
That's right.
Yes.
It's another one. Thank you.
Am I?
Yes, there's typos in here.
Yeah.
Millage is 1L.
Well, unfortunately, autocorrect doesn't work when it's a right word. Just wrong. I mean, it's a correctly spelled word. It's just been there and done that.
There's like 3 of them this year. That's why I'm looking. Sorry. Oh.
Ooh, I'm not arguing the and point, but I'm just looking at the next resolution, 2021-13, and there is not an and after the last whereas before the now therefore.
Right, that's
Same.
correct. Yeah, it should be though,
Okay.
because that's what they all need to join into the now therefore paragraph. So I'm not stating that the previous wasn't wrong as well, but the word millage is correct as far as it pertains to a levy. That's spelled correctly. At least as I did a little look up to double check it to make sure I was right. But yeah, it is spelled right. M-I-L, millage. Yeah, that's the way it was spelled as I'm looking at on Google anyway.
Well, there's mileage and millage. It's spelled 2 different ways in the same.
The mileage is
M-I-L-E-A.
Yeah.
M-I-L-E-A-G-E. That
Right.
would be mileage. That's
Right.
This is mill. Yeah.
That's in the second whereas there's mileage.
Right.
A millage.
So
Mileage at the
I
first
can't-
word. Oh, I see. I'm so sorry. I'm seeing the second one at the very last line. Sorry. I see the misspelling in the first line. Sorry about that, guys.
There's like 3
I'm
or
tracking
4
with
of
you.
the resolutions there, but I do
Right.
remember seeing the dates, and it's because the 5-year,
Yeah.
it goes, the last one went from 16 to 20, which is 5 years. So it went through the end of 2020. So that's why this one starts January 1st of 2021, but it's not assessed until the December taxes, because that's when the special assessments are on there. I can't, yeah, I just know that that's what I know, that's all.
Okay.
Oh, are we good with it, or besides the millage versus mileage and the and?
And the starting.
Yeah, where was
But I
that?
just
Sorry.
adjusted those and sent that out to you
Second
guys.
line.
Okay.
Yeah, second line. Just before January 1st. Starting January 1st.
I mean, I guess, Bill, to your point, we can, I guess make the
Approve with
motion maybe
corrections.
that we verify the dates.
Is this a time sensitive resolution?
Yes,
I believe
if
so,
it isn't
yes.
approved tonight, we don't have an election.
Which it was just given to us, FYI,
Yes,
as a
we have to
request.
put this Friday. So.
Yeah, so like literally just given to us last week. So nobody dropped the ball here. It was just given to us.
Well, I know when it comes to millage elections, the wording has to be correct. And, I know if we don't, like Josh says, we don't pass it tonight, it won't be election. But if if we put something out that isn't correct, we'll have bigger problems.
We
So,
can approve with corrections.
That's true, you could.
And then I did send that out so you guys can review it if anybody, if there's anything else I missed beyond what you, Mr. Palmer, had found and Mr. Cummings.
Right, with spelling, but I think the bigger concern that that Bill's expressing is the dates. So
I will
yeah,
make
so we-
a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2021-12. After we've, with the understanding that the date will be verified, and we can verify it with the Isabel Township or the Senior Citizen Committee that's putting together the language.
I'll support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
no,
Mr. Wushtabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is resolution 2021-13.
This is the record breaking one?
Nope, that's the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. Construct.
This is the one for, Rick, are you still on?
Yes,
Yeah, this is the one to tentatively, correct?
Correct.
Award Caterman Trucking.
yeah, this is the resolution to back up the recommendation for Caterman.
Right.
And again, it's all the Eagle process for this type of funding.
I
Right.
move to approve resolution 2021-13.
Support.
There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings for resolution 2021-13. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the world's longest resolution, resolution number 2021-13.
14.
14.
I mean 14. Yeah, 14. And Rick, I guess my question to you is, does this have to be passed tonight? Is there any question that has to be passed tonight, or can it wait till the next meeting?
No, it has to be passed tonight because this and the other paperwork needs to be in Eagle's hands by May 4th. And I'm not sure, did you get forwarded the summary email up front? And I can quickly go through the 9 points that were on there. Did that get forwarded to you as the board?
I don't, like, you mean like last week in preparation?
No,
for
no,
this?
this came in just this afternoon.
Yeah, they got the thing that you sent us.
Yeah. And then there was
We forwarded this on again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, underneath this is an email.
From Mark Nettleton?
Yes.
Okay. So there's 9 points there that summarize this. One, the bonds are issued in the amount of $1,485,000. What that is that's the Caterman low bid of $1,034,000 and change that we have went through the recommendation and that resolution. The additional cost from that $1,034,000 and change construction number is the design engineering, the construction engineering, the miscellaneous township expenses that have been incurred up to this point, and also the Baker Tilly rate costs along with the rate methodology and the Micah Myers financial review and bond counsel. That one invoice that Mitch had earlier is covered in this. As he said, this will be part of the reimbursement as far as that goes. So that's the reason this resolution is for $1,485,000. This also locks in your low interest of 1.875%. This puts out there if you were to make payments on this, it gives you the amortization schedule for that. But it does have the provision which we wanted in there that, that paying off the bonds early with other funding sources that we have in line as far as we're pursuing. This also 7 and 8 of that summary authorizes the supervisor, the treasurer, and the clerk to review and the final terms of all of these documents. That's basically getting ready for the closing that I had mentioned earlier in June, which again allows you as a township to, upon review, and if things aren't to your liking as far as all of Eagle's process, you could reject it at that time prior to closing, but that gives the supervisor, the treasurer, and the clerk the authority to review and do that. And then it basically provides for the bond authority to enact this and move this process along. So that's the summary. Basically what this does for you is for this phase of the drinking water revolving fund, this moves this along. This puts you in line for, it's kind of backwards from the SRF, where you're getting principal forgiveness currently on the SRF because you have debt on the sanitary sewer system. You have to show debt on the water system to get the same principal forgiveness. That's the S2 R2 grant that's coming down the line. It's just we had to put this project ahead of any grants coming in to show that you have debt on the system. So
Well, I move to approve resolution number 2021-14. We can get the water stuff done.
Yeah, support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer for resolution 2021-14. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried.
can I make one recommendation?
Sure.
Is that between now and May 4th, when this is officially due at Eagle, my recommendation would be have your legal counsel just to take a look at it. As we said, we've got the supervisor, treasurer, and clerk involved, but probably should have your legal counsel also just take a look at it. They're familiar with it. They've done them in the past, so it's just more of a formality, but that way you'll have it on record that they've reviewed and also signed off on it.
Do we need a motion to have, to grant Mitch the authority to take that contract, or do we just kind of say, hey, Mitch, go take the contract to the lawyer?
I think I was going to suggest we had it reviewed anyways. So in this instance, though, we're going to be sending it to, I'm assuming, Mr. Friel.
Yes.
Okay, so when you say they have experience, Rick, are you referring to our interim, or are you referring to Mr. Friel?
Mr. Friel.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right.
And if I may,
Mhm.
I just want to let the board know I'm emailing you a copy of the resolution that I was talking about. I just found it.
Heyo.
And it does have the dates January 1st, 2016.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Sorry, did we finish that resolution both though, right? Yeah, okay, and we had the recommendation. Right. Thank you for the recommendation, Rick. We will send that on to the attorney.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to other, I believe, right? Yep, okay. We are on to Planning Commission nepotism issue, board protocol. Mitch?
Okay, you have your board protocol talks about nepotism. There was a advisory that came from myself and the attorney regarding that. And honestly, you also should look at your work session. It's also in the board protocol that it's going to be on Fridays at 9 in the morning. So you either A, keep those provisions as is and then adhere to them, or B, modify those accordingly.
Well, real quick, since we've already kind of agreed to this, I would make a motion to amend the policy on the work session timing to be changed from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., which is how we've been meeting thus far.
Could I make a suggestion to that?
Sure.
That we make it 4 o'clock or other time as determined by the township board?
So we don't have to do this again?
Yeah.
I would amend my motion as such.
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer in regard to the work session, pre-board work session being scheduled on Fridays at 4 or a time to be determined by the board. Is that what you said, Bill?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. That's a good idea.
great. I'm sorry, roll call, Josh.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
and Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried.
And who were the motion and support on that?
Sure, it was Mr. Spencer made the motion, Mr. Palmer supported it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as the other issue for the nepotism thing, the board has set that as a policy. It's kind of an important one in my opinion. And I mean, since the policy is already set, then the appointment, as far as I'm concerned, is invalidated. So I don't know if there's really anything that needs to be voted on unless somebody wants to try and change the policy manual.
Well, that is the question, I guess.
So if we would have to vote on to invalidate the previously appointed, what was the invalidated appointment, and then or else we vote to change the protocol manual.
Right.
So do Steve Woosterbarth and myself you guys have to vote on us not voting, correct? Or do we?
Are you asking to recuse yourself?
I don't understand why you'd have to recuse yourself.
Is there a benefit in financial terms for you?
I had to.
You asked her to recuse herself when we were voting to appoint
Right,
John.
and that's
So-
correct. And none of us caught the fact that we were voting in violation of our own protocol.
Mhm.
So
I think the policy needs to stand as written, and either we're gonna have to leave it alone or postpone it, and I have to tell everybody I'm getting ready to lose signal here, so.
I disagree, and I think that the protocol should be amended. Right in the very back page, it says that we should be revising this, looking at it twice a year, just for these special things that we can catch and discuss. I think not only would we be losing a new person that was appointed, but we'd also be losing somebody, Kathy Woosterbarth, that's also a positive influence on the Planning Commission, and perhaps other people that would want to join that won't be able to. We're a small committee, and let's face it, it's always the same people that seem to volunteer their time, that want to be there and want to contribute.
I understand that.
Well, I
and
guess I look
appreciate
at it as I signed up and voted for the vote protocol, and I didn't exactly get that statement, and I know my wife is on the planning commission, but I think we need to open this up to the rest of the community, and I'm for one to leave the protocol as written, and right or wrong, I voted for it and I agree with it.
Yeah, I think this is an important, we want to make clear to the public at large that we're not just going to appoint family members to these various boards. I think that's the whole point of the nepotism issue in the protocol. And I too would vote that we would maintain the protocol as written as it relates to this portion. And I believe the Mr. Minor should be rescinded approval of Mr. Minor from the Planning Commission.
And then Ms. Woosterbarth will end her term, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Not immediately, but it would happen.
Not
at the end of
when
term.
her term is ended.
So why wouldn't she just have to, shouldn't that go back to November when we voted this in and she should have resigned then?
No, because this
No.
board did not approve her appointment.
That was explained in the attorney's judgment of our board protocol manual. He
Yeah.
explained that when he sent that out on the 24th of March.
Well, I just find that really fascinating because I don't live with my brother and Mr. and Mrs. Woosterbarth do. And clearly they talk because they were overheard in a public meeting with Steve telling Kathy what to say. So
That's
if there's
irrelevant.
yeah, well,
That is wrong. That is wrong, Jamie. So leave that alone.
Yeah, that's not true. But I guess I would say this is that the reason I think that that is important from the attorney's viewpoint was that it was a prior board that approved Ms. Woosterbarth, and it was this current board that approved Mr. Minor after the protocol manual had been put in place. So it's the sequence of events that leads us to why there's a difference in treatment between the two individuals.
I understand the difference
agree
in
with that.
treatment. I mean, because I read it and it does say reappointment, but in the same sense, I'm sorry. If it's if it's truly a conflict and we consider it to be an issue, allowing somebody to remain on a board for almost another year doesn't really make any sense either, if it's that critical that we deal with it. That being said, I understand the way it's written. It does, and please don't hear that I want Kathy Woosterbarth to be removed from the Planning Commission, because that is not what I am saying any way, shape, or form. Nor would I like Mr. Minor to be removed, because I think he brings a lot to the table. So that being said, I just, it's unfortunate that I guess I missed that paragraph. I find it a little odd though, and I guess I'll say this, that whoever brought it to your attention, Mr. Cummings, didn't bring up the Kathy Woosterbarth's appointment as well. Because I find it hard that they just drilled down and read that her reappointment was not appropriate. Because you have two names, last names that are the same.
I understand.
So, anyways, just
I understand.
thought I would mention that. There is,
I'll comment
yeah.
back in response and say that it was purely the one, and it was because we were all still trying to get used to the protocol manual. It is actually the reason why I was the only board member who voted no at the time, was because of the nepotism concern. However, at that time, and I'll be frank, the protocol manual is not a document that has been easily brought under my skin. It's a detailed document. There's a lot of pieces to it, and I really take responsibility here to say, because I haven't read it 3 or 4 times, it is not even close to memorized. And all I could do at that night was just agree that we had to acknowledge that Mr. Minor was Jamie's brother, but I couldn't locate quickly where it was coming from, where I recalled some mention of something and I couldn't find it. So it took some time. Another resident, as you pointed out, brought it to my attention, and I agreed to put it in an email to you and
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell. So there's how it all occurred. You're correct.
Okay, and there is a comment, or there's a chat, just a question, and I understand, I don't normally respond to comments that people ask during the meeting, but somebody just asked about can someone recap the protocol for the purpose of people listening, just so that everybody understands. We have a Township Board Protocol Manual that was actually drafted by the previous board, and we adopted it, I believe, as a new board the first meeting. So, yes. So that is why, or that is it, I guess. And it spells out a lot of things in there. So, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
just
sure
have
if it's
to
on
add
our,
It's 9:30,
available on the
and as
website.
I gave board prior knowledge, at 9:30 I have a hard stop.
Okay.
Enjoy your
All right.
vacation.
Well, it's more than that.
The meeting's over.
Vote to continue the meeting.
Yes, and we need to vote to continue the meeting. Okay, so we need a motion by somebody to continue the meeting past the 9:30.
I'll make a motion that we continue the meeting until we're finished with the agenda.
I'll support that motion. There's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Ms. Richards, to extend the meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
No,
There it is.
Mr. Sutton, yes.
Continue on. It's okay.
Is Mr. Washbarth out?
Yes.
No.
There he is. No. Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes. Motion carried.
Nope.
no, has to be
Hmm?
unanimous.
No, has to be unanimous.
Unanimous.
Oh, okay.
It's a different one. State statute. It's not a typical vote.
Okay, so I
So,
guess we
at this
adjourn
point,
the
you have-
meeting with no
We
public
adjourn the
comment.
meeting. That's correct.
We move into board comment. We move into the
Public
rest of the
comments.
comment, I believe. Do we not? Public comment? Yeah, exactly. So
I don't-
it's just the
Oh, no.
agenda ends. Is that correct? Is it,
Hmm?
is that the way that
I
would
don't
go?
think so.
Sorry,
No?
first time doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, me,
Oh, me.
actually, me too. Yes, I'm asking.
All our attorneys on, if anyone would like to holler at him real quick and ask him.
Yes, let's ask.
Yeah. Let me find the button here, see if I can find him. Tim?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes,
All
we
right,
can.
this is a novel one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking what you were just discussing about nepotism, policy, protocol, and what a confluence of issues that is. But this one, I don't know, to be honest with you. I would have to look this one up. I would imagine though, and I'm thinking.
You mean to continue the meeting? Is that what we're
Exactly.
discussing?
Don't-
Okay.
Yep, going from the holster on that one. I believe that you're safe taking public comments. I do think it's agenda items. As long as there's no other action taken, I think you're safe. I think it's actually prudent to take public comments before you close.
I agree. That's what I think. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to open it up to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Friel.
Oh, thank you.
Is somebody going to check into that, but to be sure though?
Mr. Frill, maybe that'd be a perfect item for you to check. He's muted.
He must have muted himself then.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, you mean check back and should get back to us, Jamie.
Right, correct. I mean,
Right,
so
yeah,
moving
yeah,
forward,
yeah.
we're following what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
You mean before moving forward tonight?
No,
you want him to
No,
like-
no, just
no, go ahead.
action.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so say we got advice.
Yeah.
All right, so public comment. So we are now to the section of public comment. If you have a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Otherwise, I have quite a few phone numbers I'm gonna have to check, but I will check first with use the raise hand feature if you are on a computer. Okay. You can also, John Barda, water. 24, there's a number 24850. I'm gonna ask. 248-505-1009. Did you have a public comment? I know there, I was been told before there's a delay, so just wait a second. Okay, not hearing anything. 810-733-1358. Did you have a public comment? What did I say? I forgot already.
8038, I think. Too bad there's not a rewind.
Yeah. Listen to myself twice. Perfect. Here's another one. 989-736-3111. I hit ask to unmute if you have a comment. Hello?
I have a comment. Hello?
Hi, who is this?
Can you hear me?
I barely, who is this?
Justin Griffith.
Okay, thanks, Justin.
Justin Griffith. This last end, we fundraiser for the owners out at Furtaw Field. And, it was pretty cool. And there were about 50 people raising funds for the senior class and a half a dozen kids ball around. And I would just like to say that it is a gem for us. It's a blank canvas. Could be any given weekend, from a fresh air market to Fall Bunyan festivals, rock concerts, trade expos. I really think we have things there, and it's just a big grass, and a lot of people that drive by today might not consider it to be any, but I really think it's a great thing that we have in our township. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Okay, couple more phone numbers. I have a 739-5729. I believe that's Brian Haley. I'm gonna hit ask to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Brian.
Boy, that's bad. You got my number.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is all new to me. Jeez, this conflict of interest thing. So I want to remind the board and this protocol stuff. Hey, I didn't know anything about it, but I'll certainly bone up on it. But we're talking about the appearance of a conflict of interest. When I first read that years ago, I thought that's a high bar, but there's reasons for it. Two examples recently. Trustee Worcesterbarth. Now, is he on this meeting, I hope? Trustee Worcesterbarth is
He
property
well,
on.
just to interrupt you, but he was, and he had to sign out. He gave a notice.
He
that
had to
he
sign
leave.
out.
Yes. That's why we ended the meeting early.
Okay, so the sun is setting. All right. Let me start from the beginning. The appearance of a conflict of interest. Two examples recently. Trustee Worcesterbarth has property on Cedar Lake. He would like to have municipal water service available to him at those properties. I think he wants to develop them. I don't know, which I think is a good thing. But he also made sure he got himself on the Cedar Lake Improvement. I guess I don't think that's a board really, but Cedar Lake Improvement, leave it there. You know, I didn't even have a problem with that. What I did point out at the time, though, is that, you know, what are we going to do if there's a conflict of interest? Because the board, your board, is the most important board. I don't care what let's cut to the chase here. It only takes 4 votes to stop something or to start something. Hopefully we start good things. But he's also on the board. When this was discussed, Worcesterbarth stated he would simply recuse himself from any votes at the Oscoda Township Board level if a conflict of interest did arise. The board agreed. Okay, done deal, I guess. Okay, let's give another example. And this is where really my head's kind of spinning here a little bit. In 2016, the former board, Trustee Weed was unopposed, and he became supervisor. Now, he knew no one was running against him. Well, then his wife ran and to become clerk. And I couldn't believe it, that we would put up with that on the same board. And this is some serious stuff here. We were going to allow that. All right. Now, she lost by a mere 35 votes. Now, if you guys want to be adults, imagine that if you had a husband and wife team on the same Oscoda Township board that owned half the votes for positive or negative, owned half of them. The rest, the 5 within a month would think, well, if I want to do something, I better go talk to the weeds. But that was allowed. And you let that sink in. But we're not talking about this with John. We're not talking about that at all. Now, Cummings, I called him up on this. He got all pissy about it. No problem. Never voiced any concern about it. Palmer, same thing, dude. I called it out then. You had no problem with it. Now, John Miner is a fine gentleman who knows this town better than Worcester Barth. He knows it better than Palmer, Taser, Cummings.
All right.
You gotta be kidding
Brian,
me.
you're about 15 seconds and,
All right.
you know, watch.
Now, Jamie's
scrolling.
got 1 vote at the Oscoda Township Board. She's wise enough to recuse herself if there's even an appearance of a conflict. This is bull. This is bull. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on. I just make sure I mute. I think he might have hung up. All right, next on is 739 5533. 739 5533. If you have a public comment. Okay, don't hear anything. 736 3111. I think I asked that before, didn't I? Yeah, that was Justin, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. 810 733 1358. I just asked them to unmute. I'm not hearing anything. Okay, 248 505 1009. I asked them to unmute. Oh, and I do have a raised hand now. 248 505 1009. Okay. Okay, we have a raised hand with Greg Schultz. Greg, I just asked you to unmute, I think. Okay, you should be on, Greg.
Okay, am I on?
Yep, you are. Thank you.
Yep. I guess my only comment is with Brian Haley on an elected official versus an appointed official. I think he does not really understand the concept, and the restrictions on elected officials is certainly different than appointed officials if you are looking at that. So I think he just went off the deep end there in his suggestions on what's inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Anybody else? I think I hit everybody on the phone, so I think we're all set there. Okay, so moving on from public comment to board comment. Does anybody from the board have a comment?
I just want to state for the record that I made an email on 4/19, which is a week ago Monday, to all the board members stating that the audit copies were ready to be picked up, and also a electronic copy was sent to all the board members last week.
Okay.
And thank you.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
thank you. I didn't get in to get my hard copy, but it was in the board packet and I did get the electronic copy. So thank you.
Exactly.
Okay, any other board comment?
I'd like to thank Mr. Schultz for speaking up. I agree with him. Mr. Haley was comparing apples to oranges in that case. Other than that, we're pretty disappointed that Ms. Worcester-Barth and Mr. Miner won't be able to continue. But nepotism is a serious issue. It has been in this country for a long time, and that's why we have policies against it. So I know it's frustrating, but it is what it is.
Okay, anybody else? Josh, anybody? Bill? No?
Nope.
Okay, I guess I just say we didn't actually vote on the nepotism, so there was no action taken to the best of my knowledge. So just reminding that'll be back on the agenda, unfortunately, next time. Not sure if we're having a special meeting, maybe with the budget, the presentation, maybe we could put it on there, I guess, because I don't want to leave anybody hanging. I'm not sure, but anyways, in regard to board comment, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all the firefighters in the community. We had a very serious controlled burn that did not stay controlled last week. And we lost a little over 6,000 acres of very valuable forest. And it could have been a lot worse. So according to Al McGregor, all fire departments within Iosco County did come out and assist aid along with the Forest Service and the DNR. So very thankful to obviously Oscoda Township's fire department, as well as everybody else that came out, and very thankful that everybody returned safely. And we were able to save, you know, the structures that have been in our community for a very long time. So obviously saddened by what we did lose, but it could have been far worse. So thank you to everybody for risking their lives and coming together as the great community we know us to be. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
I don't think you can. I think you just have to declare it adjourned now.
Yeah, because we can't vote on anything. We
can't
can make
vote.
motions.
So I have all the power now and declare us adjourned.
Bam!
Okay, look at you.
All right, bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
All right.